All right. So Dr. Daniel Amen at Amen Clinics came up with what they call the four circles of brain health, which really touch on almost everything that you do, right? And some of these areas you're really good at today. Some of the areas maybe you don't pay a lot of attention to, or you could see improvement in. But most importantly, all four areas are some aspect of our lives. And if they aren't, they should be. And you'll see that when we go through this. But so those four areas are biological, psychological, social, and spiritual. And we're going to go through each of those, and you're going to see in this lesson there are resources, including an exercise document and the graphic that we're actually going to talk through right now, so that you have it whenever you need to revisit to understand as you build your one-page miracle. So let's go ahead and talk about each of those sections. And so to start off, biological, okay? So that's going to be your overall brain health, physical health, nutrition, exercise, sleep, hydration, all the basic fundamentals that you need regarding your brain health. Like, do you drink enough water? Do you get 7 to 9 hours of sleep? Do you exercise on a daily basis? Exercise is so critical. I mean, there's so many studies out there where the initial findings of Alzheimer's disease and prevention and cures was, there's no cure today, really. But all the studies are starting to lead that exercise is one of the number one things on a daily basis that you can do to prevent Alzheimer's disease or at least improve any type of cognitive impairment. So those type of things. What does your supplements look like? Your blood sugar levels, genetics and family history. Like it's one thing to understand where you came from and the genetic makeup you have. But what's awesome is science has proven that there's something called epigenetics, which is the expression of your genes, which often lead to any type of disease that is part of your family line or your history line. And so to say that your family has a history of Alzheimer's, that you'll have it, is really not true as it used to be thought of back in the day before all the science came out. And so learning about your genetics helps you understand what are some habits that you can do to improve the expression of the epigenetics to help you prevent some of those diseases. Allergies, toxins, like things in the environment you can't control. What's in your water, right? What's in your food? I mean, there's so much research coming out nowadays and it's being publicized everywhere. But back in the day, like there was nothing around pesticides, right? There's something in like everybody's garage or anybody that does any type of weed application, right? A glyphosate, which is a chemical that is sprayed on weeds, plants, even on farming to keep pests and stuff out, right? And we're consuming that on a daily basis. We have no idea, right? Especially if you eat a lot of processed snacks or whatever, like chips and those type of things. They're grown with ingredients that have it, and you don't know it. But you can go get tested for it, and you can see. And sometimes as much as we try to avoid it, it just comes up and up and up. And so, how can we be aware of those type of things? Trauma and injury. Are you aware of head trauma, playing sports, hitting your head as a child, or falling down the stairs? Like, are you familiar with those type of things and what they could be doing to impact your brain health? Infections, physical illnesses, and medications. Medications can be a great thing depending on what you need and do they really fit your body type and what you're looking for, but what effects do they have, right? And what could that do to you? So biological. Psychological, it's a huge one, right? The average person has 75 to 80,000 thoughts a day. That is a lot of thoughts, right? And most of them, we don't even spend much time thinking about secondly, right? It just happens, it comes, it goes. And a lot of the times, like the decisions that we make throughout the day, we don't even think about, right? Like who sits there and thinks about, yeah, I put my right shoe on before my left every day. Like we don't, right? You just do that. I brush my hair with my right hand or my left hand. Like there are some things that we just don't do. It's routine habit, but 75,000 plus thoughts a day. And so why does that matter? Well, if a majority of those thoughts are negative, just think about how that drives the way that you behave within a given day. I mean, if you're negative self-talking to yourself, just imagine the way that you're carrying yourself. You're probably slouched down, the way you're interacting with others, your relationships. And so there's something that we call ants, which is automatic negative thoughts, and then also dragons, which both came from Dr. Daniel Amen and some of the books he's written. One of them was called Your Brain's Always Listening. And you can go in and you can take courses, but we're going to have courses available, but really mastering those, like making sure that you are conscious of your negative thoughts, conscious of any past emotional traumas that kind of sneak their way into your decisions on a daily basis, and then also influence the way you behave, like maybe the way that you don't take risk or the way that you hold or push people back, like all those type of things. And so your body image, like how do you feel and look? Like what do you tell yourself about how you look? Your development, as far as how is your learning style? How did you grow up learning as a kid, learning now? Do you have resistance to feeling like you don't learn something well, right? Past emotional trauma, past successes and failures. How do you lean on those? How do you view failures, right? Are they improvements to you, or do you kind of sit on and dwell on them a lot? Does it kind of take you down a rabbit hole? Generational history. And here we have in the graphic, immigrants or survivors of immigrants. Like, how does that play a role in your life? Like, how are you trying to master the best life that you have, knowing that where you came from, or trying to get back to your family? And so grief and loss. Unfortunately, we all goes through this, right? I mean, life is not permanent. And so what does that look like to you? Have you been experienced with loss in the family? And how does that make you feel? Hope. Do you wake up every day with hope, right? Gratitude, a practice, sense of worth, power and control. The next one is social. What does your social environment look like? So the Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks often about this, which is one of your basic needs is connection, right? As human beings, we need connection. Even if you're an introvert, right? And I would say, like, years ago, I would probably consider myself an introvert, where I would not be outgoing in a classroom. Public speaking was terrifying. But it doesn't mean that you don't urge for connection, right? For somebody that you love, your parents, your siblings, your friends, your family, even connection to colleagues and stuff. So what does that look like to you? What does community look like to you? Do you have healthy habits around connection? Like, yes, you might have connections, but do you work on building those and strengthening those, or do you work on breaking those down and then you have to come back and rebuild them, right? So what does your connections look like? Does it cause stress in your life? Like, do the people you hang out with actually cause you stress, or do they lift you up? Because those things matter, the people that you hang out with matter. So how does it relate to your health? A lot of people will swear by working out in groups. They have all of these fit body programs and cardio flex or hit training and all that, and they're all rooted in doing them together. Like, there's an accountability factor there, but there's also a social health connection there on many levels. Finances, like where does money sit for you? Work and school, like education. Are you a constant learner? Do you think about education on an ongoing basis? And then your current successes and failures, right? Like, how are you managing those right now? Like, do you feel like you're successful on a daily basis? Do you experience failure on a daily basis? How do you manage that? How do you get back up? And then information, like we live in an era really is information overload. So what information do you pick and choose to listen and hold on to? Because that matters. Like, if the information is negative or in any way like makes you feel down or stressed or fearful, like maybe that information is not a good driver for you. And so what information out there is actually going to lift you up, right? It's going to light your day and ignite you. And then lastly, spiritual. What connection do you have to some type of higher power, whether that's, a God, Buddha, whoever you worship, the universe, and those type of things? Like, when you wake up every day, do you have a connection? Do you have a connection to nature? Do you go outside and feel grounded, like putting your feet on the ground and actually feeling the earth, right? I mean, we're all little tiny small microorganisms in a vast universe. And so do we even think about that? Like, we live in our own little world some days and we get a little stressful about certain things. And If you're like me personally, like I'm a dad of 4 kids and I get stressed and then I remind myself like it's so small, right? The stresses are so small sometimes in life compared to what's out there in life and how we can really make our own little impact in this world. And so, what does that connection look like? Do you have purpose? What drives you every day? Like maybe you enjoy the work you do, but what do you really care about, right? Like what do you care about, and how does that motivate you, or how can you translate to the others that you support and serve? Because the best service you can give to other people is your best self. So, in other words, if you have mastering your purpose down, then you are able to offer your best self to the world and to others. And that is powerful. So are you also connected to generations, future, past? And then we talked about planet, morality, and values. What are your principled values that you grew up as a family, and how do you hold on to those? How do you navigate other principles and open to perspectives? How are you viewing the world from other people's eyes? Right? Are you open to that? Your biases, your egos, all of that is really related to your connectedness. And so this is so powerful, and hopefully you can see, like, as we talk through those 4 circles, really they play a key role in everything that you do, right? All we've done here is kind of break them down into subsets and then categories, and that's going to help you build your one-page miracle. But all of this should have its place in everything that you do. So please take a minute and do the short exercise that is incorporated in this lesson around the 4 circles of brain health. So you can just start to think about each 4 areas and things that you are working really well for you in your life, and then things that you would love to build habits to change. And so take a moment to do that before we dig into one page miracle.